put him on his back. Thurston, right foot kick, down the ground, into the in goal almost. Hodgson cuts it off. Hodgson taken by Norton. He took him late. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside. Richards pursued. He pushes Johnson away.
Tuesday, the 1st of April. Not an April Fool. 2025, you're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your hosts, Zach and Toby. Zach at this end, Toby at the other, brought to you as always by Best On Ground Digital. Best On Ground Digital, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. They will not steer you wrong. BestOnGroundDigital.com. Toby, other end of the line. Mate, have you gotten over the disappointment of Sunday night yet?
Yeah, I've gotten over it. I thought we were a sure thing, but it's only early in the season. I'm not too angry, but to my credit, I watched the game extremely exhausted, so I probably didn't have enough energy to be angry about it. But yeah, no, I think I'm over it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm trying to take the high road on this one. I really don't want to, but
What's
I'm trying
the
to
high
take
road?
them. Oh, the high road is we need to be patient. Let's take the positives out of it. We're up against adversity.
It's a new word.
Adversity, sorry. And focus on the positives, but it's really hard to, because all I wanted was those 2 points that I felt was snatched away from us by a number of methods, not least of all our own doing.
Yeah, there was a lot of things at play as to why we didn't get the 2 points. I think that this isn't going to be the one where I'm going to berate, whatever I'm talking about there. The referees. I thought that there was some contentious decisions. Not really the one that led to the 2-pointer. I don't know. I think I read an article from Paul Crawley saying that we were having a whinge about that last penalty. That's not what Benji was whinging about. So, but also,
that's interesting, because wasn't he the same Paul Crawley that came out and called Ricky Stewart brave for daring to still criticise the refs in light of the new warning they got given? That very same Paul Crawley? Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It's good to see where his allegiance lie.
Yeah, playing favourites.
Yeah. And then, obviously there was also parts where it's really funny. Last week, when we were talking about the Dolphins game, you said very, very clearly that the big difference between last year and this year is moments. We were taking our moments. That game, felt we did not take our moments at all.
No, we lost every one, and they took all of theirs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We had how many tries disallowed? 3 or 4? When we were literally over the line?
At least the 2 at the back end, yeah.
And then, then some very, very silly errors, silly moments at the back end of that game too. No more than no one being at dummy half when Taruva made the break. That was ridiculous. And then everyone was blaming each other. But, that is what it is. But again, like I said, not harboring much anger anymore, but it is still frustrating that it was within our grasp. We had it, and we let it slip. So
yeah, well, to twice go up on the literal scoreboard, albeit briefly, by 10 points with barely 10 to go, you were sitting or feeling pretty good at that point, even inside of 10. I can't remember exactly when it was. Maybe a little bit longer, but to have that happen twice and then for the game to go the way that it went, it was very West Tigers-like. I'm with you. I'm not going to blame the officials for any key decisions. I do want to have a gigantic gripe about the way that the game was refereed, particularly early, but we'll talk about that in a moment. moments is 100% the play, and I've thought about it for 2 days straight now, mate. It's the Warriors took every little half chance that they created, they executed, and that's what this Warriors side does. Like, they complete really highly and they take their chances, and they just hope that there's enough chances there to pile enough points on. You know, everything played in the Warriors' hands in that game. It was a big, slow, wet track. They're a high completion team who doesn't give away the many penalties and 6 agains. They're pretty well disciplined. And the point I was going to grizzle about was the refereeing in terms of the ruck speed.
That was my gripe as well.
Not just the play the ball speed, because obviously play the ball just being one component of the overall length or duration of the tackle or ruck, as it were. Mate, I could believe it. I was about to say I couldn't believe it. I could believe it, but I was laughing out loud watching the game by myself, particularly in that first 20 minutes, how much the Warriors were getting away with blue murder in and around that ruck. It was a disgrace. And I mean an absolute fucking disgrace. Like, blatant flops, time after time after time. Like, there was a set there where I think every single tackle, it wasn't your traditional hands on the ball. They were laying in the ruck, and they were slow, and they were peeling number one by one. All these things that were outlawed like several years ago. Well, they just obviously that they are under some sort of edict themselves from Webster to try to get away with as much early as you can and lay on it. The Knights did the same thing to us in round one, if you recall, and we were sluggish out of around the ruck and sluggish out of dummy half in that game, missing Appy, obviously. It's clearly a ploy to hammer one of our greatest strengths, which is that dummy half play, be it Appy or Talon in a tiring defence. But, mate, bloody outrageous. Like, I hope and I assume that's what Benji was referring to. I know that there were some other calls throughout the game. I'll cop most of them. Most of them were right. You know,
absolutely.
The non-tries were correct. It's a shame we couldn't execute.
So, like the May one, clear drop ball. The Buller one I thought was touch and go, but the fact that he picked it up, I'm like, I can live with it. If
the obstruction,
because I feel like he was probably in line and then moved around, but again, that is still actually an obstruction.
No, what they called was Stafford ran into the outside shoulder, which is
was that what it was?
Yeah. So it was just black and white, which again is silly on his behalf. So anyway, yeah, it was moments, and we just didn't take them. So if the Warriors are that side that just plays high percentage football, takes their moments, you know, against us at the moment, we're just a scattergun. Like, it's literally Jackson Pollock painting. Grab a handful of paint, throw it against the wall and see what sticks. And it's churning up 24, 30 points most games. But without that consistent elements that, you know, the Warriors saw, that they could hold their nerve and they could take those chances, then we're going to have games where we get disappointed by that, because we won't be a team, at least not for a while, until we've got a bit more structure. And we can dive a bit deeper into that, but we won't be a team that takes all those chances. So, yeah, disappointing. It's funny. 2 2-point losses at home at Campbelltown. We could easily be 4-0. Easily.
Yeah.
But in some ways, we could easily be 1-3 too. Like, that Dolphins game, we had history in losing those types of games, you know, countless times. So we very easily could be a lot worse off too. I think we had Parramatta probably in the bank, but it's hard to get a gauge on where we really are, because, you know, you then flip the coin and you say, okay, well, how have we gauged so far against teams? Well, we're pretty neck and neck with the two teams we lost with, but let's look at the situations. Well, we're missing half our spine against Newcastle, and we're missing a bunch of players against on the weekend. And we lose the game, the players intra-match against the Warriors, with losing Dewey and then losing Sam Weller and all those types of players. So add that to the fact that I think we've been playing awfully, to be perfectly honest. I don't think we've played well at all. We've defended well in patches, particularly. We've had a set, or like a series of sets that look good, or a play that looks good, or a run of play, or a short period that looks good. We haven't played good for a whole half of football yet, I don't think. Now, maybe that second half against Para, but who are our opposition? So, yeah, look, a lot of mitigating factors. It's just disappointing, mate. It's
It
really
is.
disappointing.
It is. And the thing too, when you say we've defended well in patches, you have a look at some of the tries that have been scored. I'd say the majority of the tries that have been scored against us this year have come within the opposition half. When we're on our goal line, we tend to defend very, very well. We tend to hold them up. It's like that structure that we have on our goal line is completely different to the structure we have. And, at times that is the case. It has to be because you have to condense close to the dummy half to make sure there's no, bowl over. But what we're having outside of us, like, obviously we did have a try scored against us on the weekend that was within our 10. But at the same time, we were playing musical chairs with our players at that point. Taruga was coming off. Sam was coming off. It was all that stuff. So, that was, I reckon that was going to happen regardless. So, but our goal line defense seems to be a lot stronger than, I guess, in their own half. Maybe we get complacent. Maybe we're like, well, we don't have to put our foot down. We don't have to, stick to our structures. But that's what's getting frustrating for me is how many times we're seeing tries within that starting from within the opposition half. Like, we've got to be able to pin them down. We've got to, show that force, show that strength within their half to really dominate possession. But we just haven't been.
If you want to talk about that, I thought we, and I think you're probably talking more about dominating territory than possession, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I thought there was moments in that game where we actually did that quite well, and we resisted the temptation on most occasions to get penalised. I think we did get penalised for being inside the 10 once or even twice, possibly 6 again for being inside the 10. But there was moments when we had that momentum in that second half where that kick chase pressure was something that we hadn't seen as much, I don't think, and they really executed on that quite well, which is pleasing to see. But then, you fall back to losing the momentum again in the way that it went. So, yeah, thoughts in general. There's a lot of positives to pull out of it. And originally, I opened the show by saying I'm trying to take the high road by focusing on those positives. But it is tempting to not because of, I guess, the adversity that we were up against as well. It wasn't our full strength side who just rued a couple of chances and threw a game away. You look at everyone we're missing, how skinny we are depth-wise in a squad, all the changes throughout the game, much less leading into the game.
Yeah.
And to basically throw the game away, essentially, with a couple of chances that we could have nailed and should have nailed, to be quite frank, against a Warriors side that, whilst not full strength, they weren't far off full strength. Full spine, across the board. They're missing RTS and Dallin Wateni.
And Berry.
No, Berry played.
No, Rocco Berry came out. Pompey went into the centres.
He did. That's right. Yeah, sorry. They were talking about him. He got selected, but didn't get. Yeah. But I mean, he's been playing reserve grade anyway.
Yeah.
Rocco Berry. So, do you swing then and look at the positive side of it and go, man, more character, but your heart just hurts for him. Because to come up against all that adversity for what? Like, what did they actually pull out of that? All that effort, all that guts, all that determination to try to get through that game. And, I guess that's footy, but there's no 2 points at the back end of it. But, yeah, so trying to focus on the positives with it, of which there are plenty. First and foremost, the performance up front by the boys in the front, playing nearly 2 straight games between them. Terrell May, 80 minutes. Funua Pole, near on 70 minutes. We'll run through their stats a little bit later specifically, but needless to say, they're just absolutely out of this world.
Yeah.
Against a big pack, down on troops, as we said. So interchanges were less, needing them to play minutes. Big Warriors side in the wet as well. Slippery conditions. So
and you wouldn't say incredible. That we were dominated in the middle. I wouldn't say that.
No, look, you look at the stat sheet, but there was a few things that didn't align with the stat sheet on the day versus the eye test, and that was one of them. I think the Warriors had a lot of ball and territory early, and their set distance exceeded ours. But particularly those two boys, they didn't seem to struggle too much once we finally got to those rucks where they were having a run. I think we got hammered early in terms of our early runs out of the backfield, and that's where we missed Skelton clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, there's a few points. Like, you also think about prior to the game, obviously, we've been seeing his praises recently in terms of Adam Dewey. And while it looks like when he gets to the line, he's going at half pace, I reckon he still makes 4 or 5 post-contact meters every time. Doesn't get taken down easy. That definitely hurt us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Bird has become that energizer bunny that we need off the bench. We need him to bring that energy mid-game. We didn't have that. And that's not to say that he wasn't kind of bringing the energy when he could. But, it's an 80-minute game. And he's been playing short stints. So
it threw our systems out a lot.
Absolutely.
It did, and like that's part of the deal when you've got a skinny squad, I guess, in a lot of ways. But you can't underestimate that. Not only what we missed as individuals, or what they brought as individuals, but what the synergy, implications are for that. So you pull Adam Dewey out, there goes your 3/4 on that side. That throws it out straight away, and you got Sam Weller, who obviously was out then mid game too. So you got to shift and adjust around that. At one point, you had Sione playing out on an edge, and it's hard to be too critical of him, but he led some of two things he did, or at least was a big part of, led directly to 2 tries, unfortunately. But it just was as a result of being in the situation because of what happened throughout the game, how that game and pre-game played out. So, yeah, you can't underestimate the connection between what those edges are.
Especially and what they're building, because
the difference that can make.
Yeah, while it's been three games, it's been 3 full games that, I think Sammy came off maybe 10 minutes of the Dolphins game, or even 5, but they've been playing together and they've been working well together. Like, you can't underestimate that.
And Sam Weller himself as an individual, we've mentioned the last few weeks alone, or a lot of the cleanup work that he does off the ball, and that doesn't get noticed as much. A lot of that sort of desperation, the desperate cover, the hard push out of marker B to get covered or to get across. All these things are efforts that we see.
You think about that last try the Warriors scored to even it up. It was Sione trying to make the cover tackle. If Sam was there's a good chance he makes that cover tackle.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, in that situation, Sione was just too slow to get across and slide. Had they slid properly and had someone more agile that was used to it, that just wouldn't happen. But you can even go back to the ruck prior where Solfa Tape didn't manage his man in the wrestle and got dominated, leading to one marker, which allowed them to jump up on the outside and get to that overlap. So, you can just those moments. It's really frustrating because going back and watching the game a second time and watching the mini a few times, as I like to do, slow down, all that sort of stuff as well. There's always multiple components to these types of tries, but the margin for error watching those tries and how the Warriors scored them was so thin. So many things had to go right in their way for them to execute on those tries, and they did. And by golly, that was frustrating. Like, if you just look at one example, the first try they scored, was that Pompey who went through?
Yeah.
So originally drifting sideways, Polly gets a good shot on Fisher Harris. Had he simply wrapped him instead of bumping him, Fisher Harris doesn't then bump off sideways and get on the outside of Lockie Galvin. He then gets a simple ball away, so he's not getting on the outside with speed, but as he's falling down, so Harris passes it out, to Pompey. As he's falling down, he catches Galvin up. Galvin trips over. Polly is on the outside of Galvin, who pushes and overcommits, which, that's an effort play, but it's overcommitment again, which allows and opens up the inside. But because Galvin had fallen over and tripped over, he can't get to there to make his man. So he gets through, All those things had to go right for Pompey to even have the space. And then he gets through, and one of the safest defensive fullbacks in the league misses a basic one-on-one tackle, which is not something that Jahream Buller would do very often at all.
No.
But then, lo and behold, the same thing happens in the second half. I was talking about the fact that Tape was out of position. They happened to get that slide across. Sione happened to be there. Samwella would have covered. Hopefully, you would think if they didn't, they got through. What's the name of the big fella down the side, the young dude? It's a Haliasima.
I'll take your name. I'll take your word on that.
Yeah, he's covered easily. Buller's got him again, one of the best defensive fullbacks in the league, and he misses a second one. And then because of how they wrong foot Bird, then he does too. Like, I just think that there's so many instances in that game, and this is right back to moments earlier where play not only the game again, but played that situation again with the same players, much less having the right players where they would have been had they not got hurt. And Warriors don't score hardly any points at all. Even that nice crisp movement they did up the middle where they went Egan, Harris Tavita, Metcalf down the centre. Like there's slim margins for error there. So, credit to their execution in the wet. So credits to their execution. But, just one little moment where someone nods off in and around that marker and bang. So, look, I guess as I'm saying it, the words coming into my mouth, credit to the Warriors for taking their chances. That's a really well-drilled and polished side to do that. And that's going to win them games like on the weekend where, to be honest, I think that we probably should have won that for a number of times over. I think we created more chances. I think we looked more dangerous. We're more erratic, but they got the job done. So
yeah, and that's something that I guess every critic has been saying is, Tigers probably deserve to win that more based on their performance, based on the effort. But our execution was just not there. Whereas the Warriors, they needed to execute perfectly for that to happen. And they did. And like you said, credit to them. They did what they had to do and they got the 2 points. It's frustrating. At the same time, too, it's the Warriors. And I think I've got a soft spot for the Warriors anyway. So if it was someone like, the Roosters that did that, I'd be fucking ropeable. I'd be like, nah, they cheated. Nah, hate them.
So don't tell me you still got a soft spot for them because of the COVID stuff.
Absolutely. We wouldn't have had a 2020 season without them.
Why?
Because they weren't going to run. They weren't going to run the thing without a 16 team, 15 team competition. They weren't going to do it.
That's their decision, but you could have just dropped the Warriors out and played it.
But
they've been patted on the back enough. Fuck the Warriors.
Nah, got a soft spot.
Nah, stuff them.
But you hate every team that's not the Tigers. So
correct. They screwed us in the 2011 qualifying final. Never forgive them. Fucking useless. They should be a juggernaut, and they're useless. Get themselves together, but don't win.
Don't win.
Stuff them. Down the wires. Anyway, that's my grumble done. Mate, instead of going through piece by piece, let's just pull out some top performers. We mentioned the front row there.
Well, do you know what we didn't do last week was our sink and lift. So
okay, fine. Good idea. Let's jump into a sink or lift, mate. So
I've already got my sink.
Jump into it. What do you got?
Luai is my sink. Okay. He was very, very quiet. For whatever reason it was, I felt like he didn't perform the way we needed him to. He didn't stand up. And, again, he's just finding his feet at the Tigers. We can't expect miracles from him. We can't. He's not going to be the guy that you can't have it all going to one player. You just can't. We tried to do it with Tedesco. Couldn't do it. So, but in that game, he was my sink compared to the week prior. I think that he could have done a lot more. He ran for something ridiculous. I'm looking at the stats now. He ran for 14 meters off 4 runs. He was just offloading the ball, kicking the ball. Yeah, he had a couple of jinks here and there, but we just needed more from him. And that's, knowing the personality I don't know him personally, but, hey, Romy, if you want to be best mates, I'll be best mates with you. That'll probably be one of the last times I'll ever say that, because he'll probably be his own worst critic, and he will lift next time he's on the field. Obviously, he's out this week, but he will lift when he's back on in Tigers jerseys. So that's my sink. My lift is going to be a very, very obvious one, and that is going to be May. He was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. That bloke has to be on some sort of gear because he just has so much endurance. Holy shit. Lead tackles, lead run meters, but lead run meters in terms of over 200 meters.
Yeah, so 80 minutes in the middle against the big Warriors pack in the wet. No rest, 21 runs for 202 meters.
10 meters of run against the Warriors in 80 minutes.
48 tackles for 1 missed.
My God. That bloke is superhuman.
Yeah, we're at borderline unheard of territory at the moment. Everyone talks about Payne Haas, and rightly so. He's going to go down. I think it's one of the best props to ever play the game, Payne Haas. But if we're just talking stats monsters, yeah, he's up there, isn't he?
He has to. He has to be in we predicted at the start of the year he's going to be in contention for a Blues jersey. I think he's just basically said, if you don't pick me, Laurie Daly, you are the same Muppet that led us for 4 years, 5-6 years straight. I don't even know how long.
No, mate, he's incredible. He's quite the physical specimen, and doing a great job warming to his task. Look, just with your comments on Jerome, as the young kids say at the moment, and I'm probably using it wrong, let him cook. I think they say that if someone's on fire or doing a good job, but I'm referring to it. I'm going to change it to let him marinate. Let him marinate. Yeah. See, I think that he's just feeling his way into this side and feeling his way into what they can do and what they can offer and how best to play. I've said it a few times. I think he's a chess player. I think he's the type of player who takes time to figure out what he's got at his disposal, and then slowly sharpens and refines that, and then they find their sweet spot. And I think in the meantime, the side is learning how to play footy as a unit. They haven't played a month of football together.
I said that before.
That's without the injuries and the suspensions.
And I said that when I said, I put him as my sink was...
You don't need to defend it. I'm just presenting a counterpoint to you.
I need to defend it because I felt like you said I was bad-mouthing him, but I'm not bad-mouthing him.
No, I didn't. You sunk him, and that's fine. And you're just wanting to see certain other things. Look, he hasn't delivered a try assist or a line break assist this year yet in 4 games. If you just look pure statistics, then he's not delivering as a playmaker. But for me, would I love to see half a dozen of each of those stats? Yeah, for sure, because it means we're scoring way more points than what we currently are, and we're scoring some points. But I think that he's doing a lot of stuff for this club that is beyond statistics. And for that reason, I'm willing to give him a really, really, really long leash. Now, if we're mid next year and we're still having the same conversation, it's starting to become, probably sooner to be honest, it's starting to become a situation, and I don't think we'll be in this place. But that would start to become a situation where we're saying, okay, what's going on here? Is this a contract that is not going the way that people had anticipated? Yeah. But I don't think that could be further from the truth. I don't think that's a reality that we're going to have to deal with. And given time, given more players and more quality around him, like our squad on paper goes all right when we're fully fit. We've seen in the last 2-3 weeks, the moment we're not, we can be paper thin, particularly in some areas, and it falls to shit. So you start solidifying that, you get some higher quality, with due respect, pieces around him to go with the pieces that we are already laying in place. And I think we're going to see him go from the marination box onto the grill, mate, and just cook up a bloody storm there, champion.
The question, is he going onto the grill or is he going into the smoker?
Let me throw something at you before I'm going to cut to your segment in a moment. And
you still got to do your sink and lift anyway.
I know. Thank you very much. Who's the showrunner here, champion?
Well, just fucking remember.
Toby,
Yes, mate.
Calm down with the swearing, please. This is a family-friendly show.
Since
You
when?
forget that. You forget that sometimes. It always was since day one, but that's all right. You forget lots of things. You're a forgetful fella. Mate, I want to ask you this. If you look at our side now, are we starting to see more people that we are gluing in place moving forward?
Yes.
Good. Is that a super big net positive?
Yes.
So who are they? Fullback, Jareem. Yes,
Yep.
glued in. Sania Taruva, one wing, glued in.
Yep.
Jarrell Skelton, glued in, other wing.
Yep.
We
Dewey.
would be happy to take these people. I'm not talking this year. I'm talking into the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not looking for upgrades in any of those spots.
No.
That's 3 of our 5 backline. Would you agree we don't have a centre yet that you would glue in place?
No. I would say that for me, Dewey is a centre. He's a glued in.
Dewey's
centre.
doing a good job.
I think he's glued in for me.
Okay. Well, for me, he's not in the slightest. You know, if Taylor May comes back and his head's on straight, I would glue Taylor May. If Tony Staggs became available and we signed him, I'm gluing him in. I'm talking about definite starters that I could see taking us to a premiership. So a set and forget position that I would never think of upgrading.
Well, I'd still upgrade the other centre position.
No.
Still 2
I'm
centres.
saying, okay, so you're happy with Adam Dewey then?
I am happy
you
with
think
Adam Dewey.
Adam Dewey as a centre
Yes.
could take us to a premiership?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I don't, but that's all right.
So
Lockie Galvin,
we're allowed to have difference of opinions.
that's the point. Lockie Galvin at 6.
Nope.
Okay. Jerome Luai at 7.
Yes.
Terrell May, front row.
That's a silly question.
Yeah. Appy.
Yes.
Still got a couple of years left. Fanua at the other prop.
Yes.
Sam Weller at 11.
Yes.
No second row. No second row.
Oh, no, I was going to say Seyfarth, yes.
Don't ruin it. And 12, we're not locking 12 into lock.
No.
So, look, our starting 13, if you look at that and you say that we're happy to lock all those players in, there's not that many pieces to fill. And this is going beyond saying that not just locking players in, but there is players I would be happy to still see play in the meantime. So with Dewey, for example, I'm happy to see Dewey play. I think Dewey could do a good enough job if we had another strike centre in a strong team when we're all fit and playing well. I think Dewey could do a good enough job to take us into the finals. Could he be part of a premiership side? I'm not sure, so I wouldn't lock him in. I still think he could do a good job. But in that starting 13 that we said, we've got quite a fair few that we don't want to touch anymore, that we're happy into the future. When was the last time you could say that about Tigers side? Like, you think back to, like, even Moses Tedesco days, you had 4 or 5 maybe?
Yeah.
And it was probably the ones
they
were the ones we're thinking of. Whereas now, realistically, I'm looking at a couple of centres. I know the Latu Galvin debate either way, but if you have the choice right now, you're locking Galvin in. If you could sign him for 5 years on fair enough money, whatever that is,
$1 million a year.
You do, in my opinion. And then I have to go all the way down to a second rower and a lock. So it's, we're talking small single digit numbers that if we can zero in and replace those spots, So in terms of the benefit to where we're going, the fact that the squad is becoming more locked in place as we go is something that we might not have realised has happened.
True, and I'm not disputing that, but now that you've gone out and we've said this, the fact that I sat there and I hesitated and I said no to Galvin, do you agree with that? Is Galvin a lock for you regardless?
If I have the choice between locking Galvin in 5/8 and not, knowing the risks or what may happen if I wasn't to do that, then I'm locking him in 5/8.
But do you think he could take us to a premiership?
Lockie Galvin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I'm not talking about in the future. I'm talking now.
What, this year?
Year or two. Because what we're talking about here is development. We're talking about progress. We're talking about moving forward. I haven't seen enough from him to be able to guarantee that in the next 2-3 years' time he's going to be the type of player to lead a team to a premiership or to be part of a premiership winning team. I haven't seen enough. I have seen.
Well, your only option is he or Latu, and we haven't seen either one. And I don't think that you would be happy to lock anybody other than Galvin or Latu in, risking losing Galvin or Latu. So they're probably your only options. And if that's the argument that you haven't seen enough, you've seen way less of Latu than you've seen of Galvin. So what are you doing? Who's your 5'8"?
But your question, what you said was, if this team, if they're a lock, like the exact same thing we can say about Dewey. I've seen enough to think that he can be part of a premiership winning team. You haven't. I haven't seen enough of Lockie to say he's part of a premiership winning team. Have you?
Okay. You got me on semantics there. When I'm saying I haven't seen enough, I don't think that you can win a premiership with Adam Dewey in the centres. Unless...
At this point in time.
If Adam Dewey plays in the Penrith side from a year or two back, sure. But I'm talking about players that I'd be willing to lock in place and not looking at upgrading them. I'm still looking at an upgrade to Adam Dewey in the centres. Adam Dewey's doing a good job, and he might finally iron out the deficiencies he's always had. That is the reason why I'm still looking at upgrading him. If he spends a season and a half playing top shelf footy with no defensive lapses whatsoever in the centres and kills it, I'm locking him in. I'm no longer upgrading him.
How can you say that about Adam Dewey and not say that about Lockie Galvin?
What do you mean?
Well, because what you're sitting there, and I'm saying the exact same thing as you, is at this point in time with Adam Dewey, you're saying that you are not comfortable with him being a lock in the centres. If he performs in a year's time, he's a lock for me. What I'm saying about Galvin is I'm not seeing anything that's saying that he's a premiership winning half or a part of a premiership winning half right now.
Yeah.
In 2 to 3 years' time, very possibly.
I got you.
So that's what I'm talking about.
I got you. I'm leaning more towards the upgrade side of things. Like, my question is, who are you buying to stop you from locking Lockie Galvin in? Like locking Galvin in 2 years as well, because this is who we're locking in to have a charge at the premiership. So we're thinking 2, 3, 4 years. That's the time span, right? Or up to 5, whatever. Okay, so that's the time frame. Within that time frame, and the Lockie Galvin you're going to have at year 2, 3, 4, are you still looking for an upgrade on him? Because right now, who's the one setting up all the points? It's not Jerome Luai. And I know that he's playing big roles, but it's Galvin. Now, Galvin is playing a big role in everything that we do around attack. And if you look at trajectories of development, all that sort of stuff as well, sometimes it's easy to forget that there are no sure things when it comes to taking bets on young squad players. Sometimes you just got to take a gamble. And I don't know, look, I guess the original point of raising that was, this is something that hasn't gotten talked about a lot, but I think it's a huge positive, and it's something that's crept up on the fan base, and the results aren't there yet, but the squad itself is filling out nicely, I think. We're still real thin, but I think we're getting key people in key spots, more than just the spine. Like the way that Terrell and Fanua have combined and are playing, they're not going to continue to do that every single week, but we've seen what they're capable of doing. We don't need to look around the league to get a new starting front row prop. We've got them, and they're young and they're signed long term. Done.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I guess I'm just trying to allude to the fact that that's all positive stuff. Like 2 young wingers that we've just signed that are killing it. Done. Wingers are sorted. We don't need to look for wingers again for a while. We're fucking stoked with what we got, and we got them. Mad.
Yeah.
So there's just less and less problems to fix, less and less holes to fix. And as you start fixing those holes, the side plays more and more games together. They become more and more harmonious. So the side gels better, and results keep going up and up and up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
Positive way of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah. No, I get you now. I get you.
Yeah. Sink and lift. So my sink and lift, mate. Sinking. It's going to be really harsh, but I'm going to say it is Sione Fainu. And he played out of position, but he didn't play the entirety of the match out of position. He wasn't on the edge the whole time. He was in the centre. The effort and Warrior, I'm hopeless with Warriors players. Who scored the
The one close to the line.
the straight flat ball that got
No, I
Jerome on the
remember.
inside.
Was it?
It's going to be someone blatantly obvious.
Oh shit! I think I've got it in my head, but I can't. Oh, ex-Eels player.
Niokore. Yeah, that's who it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, it was Murata Niokore.
Yeah.
That was just simply Sione. And
Yeah.
talk about moments and just a minor lapse. The Warriors weren't breaking us down systematically. Again, we spoke about this, remember, early in the year about the Newcastle and Parramatta game, I think. The systems aren't failing. There's just little moments and fatigue moments you can understand. But, Sione staying half a step into the right and staying half a step back left Jerome stranded. Jerome was up and out, ready to up and slide. If they go the short ball, he can jam back in late and cover that, but he needs Sione's outside shoulder in order to do that. Sione couldn't get the outside shoulder because he was just stuck in too close.
Yeah, but again, you can't put fatigue down to that as either because Sione just came on.
Yeah, it was early and it was in the middle. That's what I'm saying. And look, the second one with Haliasima going on the outside and the role he played in that, again, stuck too inside. He hasn't played a lot of edge. I'll cop that. Bloody frustrating. But there's not much you can do about that. He's a middle who's played limited minutes this year, who was stuck out on an edge in the wet, in an unfamiliar position with players either side of him that are not used to playing in those positions either. I think you had Far Tape on one side, who's not a winger at all anyway, playing there. I think you had Bird playing on his inside, or defending on the inside. So, yeah, he's my sink only because
he was responsible for 2 tries.
He was responsible for two moments that led to tries.
Yeah.
My lift, I'm trying to focus with the lift on, I guess, picking somebody who put in a surprise performance, I guess, but not that it's a surprise to me, a surprise to anybody that's ever heard me mention his name, but mate, Latu, he's too good.
Oh, even Benji said that.
He's too good. He's too good to play anything but NRL.
Yeah.
And they've got to find a way to get him in the side, and I think I've got a solution. And
if you say lock, you've already said it.
I want to run it by you. No, I'm talking in terms of rotations. He has to be in the side. They've got to find a way to not only just get him in the side for the sake of the side, get Latu into the side for the sake of an identity that he has within the team, because he's an absolutely prodigious talent. And I want him to start to feel as though he is part of this. And I'm sure that he does. I'm sure they do. And I'm sure it's a squad first mentality. And game day sides don't matter that much. But as a young man coming in, contributing like he did on the weekend, and I think he could do almost every game he plays because he's a freak. Get him in and give him a role and give him early and allow him to build into it. So lock, yes, I like it. But I want to see it as like it's basically like just a floating roving role. So he's not playing like a traditional heavy lock, like a 12 wheel. We're playing a third prop role, link man.
Mm-hmm.
He always comes as a pseudo halfback. So you can always play like the Isaiah Yeo style role, even removed of workload, so he can shift out where he defends. So he comes in and actually plays close to more first receiver than what a Nathan Cleary does, particularly in certain formations. Yeo is the first receiver in a lot of those situations. And that's more than just a link man because he's playing genuine options. And when Latu has the ball, so he's almost playing in attack like a pseudo halfback. Yeah, exactly. And we saw that on the weekend. And he played a role in 33 minutes, 2 try involvements. One, he scored himself, obviously. But when Lockie put the kick through for Fatape out wide, it was Latu that dives in straight and then shifts out wide to straighten and just gives everybody that half little shutter back infield, which allows Romy to get the ball to Lockie, gives him that little bit extra. And all those, as you know, the little inches make the difference. And then the winger's nowhere to be found and Sol gets the ball. So, yeah, mate, I can't go past Latu. He's got to be in the side. I think the fact that I don't want May to play gigantic minutes every week. I don't want Polo to play gigantic minutes every week. But there was a really good analogy that someone had made. Where was it? I'm trying to think. It was on one of the podcasts. It was either one of the Tigers podcasts. So apologies to any of those boys if I've ripped it off. Or it was on one of the review ones, Bloke or one of those, 100% footy, something. Someone made a really good point. And they said, it might have even been Dennekamp on his cracker of a show, but it was if they'd signed May as a high-minute Origin prop. Think of like a Paul Gallen.
Mm.
Do you think anyone would be worried about overplaying his minutes at Clubland? No. People aren't used to seeing these types. Is anybody screaming about burning Payne Haas out for playing 60, 70 minutes every single game?
No.
No, they're not. It's just what these guys do. Now, you don't play Terrell May 80 minutes a week. Like, fair enough. You're going to need it certain situations. We need it on the weekend. And you're going to have to cycle through workload and pull some workload back. But if you can get 60, 70, 65 minutes, as we have been getting out of Terrell the whole time, if Fanua can up his rate, not to 70 like the weekend, but up to 55, 60 each week, all of a sudden, you only need to carry a Royce Hunt, if you can get him up to 30 minutes, and a versatile prop like a Sione or someone who can, like hopefully a Seyfarth, who can play middle or edge at a pinch. Seyfarth is the perfect one. Because then you can fit Latu and Talon both on the bench. You're then sliding Latu into that roving lock role, so he's effectively playing as a middle. You've got Twal there who starts in that heavy lock position, who can come back into the prop rotation. But because you've got two starting props that are playing big-ish minutes, you don't need as much out of your Twal and your Seyfarth and your Royce Hunt. Now, I'm obviously saying that in the event that Seyfarth, if we were upgraded to him and we could get him back onto the bench, that spot is probably a Sione Fainu at the moment. But I think there are ways that you can get Latu into the side. It's a matter of thinking outside of the box. I don't want to burn those props out, but they're showing that there may be a pathway forward there to get these attacking weapons into the side.
So in saying that, the position that you're referring to essentially is what Bird does when he comes on the field.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yeah. Yeah,
So
but you're putting Latu in that position.
So does that mean he replaces Bird?
No, and that's a good question.
Because then what do you do with Bird?
Yeah, and see, that's probably the issue. And I think I'm getting greedy by having Hunt, who these signings have to play. Wanting to have the two in Latu and Tal, like wanting to have the second hooker, wanting to have the dynamic middle in Latu, wanting to have the Energizer Bunny who plays part centre, part second row, part lock in the middle, and then wanting an impact prop on top of it on the bench. I'm probably getting greedy there. But...
So is that potentially then, because you were speaking about Seyfarth, is Seyfarth a second rower that takes the sting out of the defense? Because we know that he's quite, obviously he had that line break off Galvin, but that was a good line. Don't get me wrong. But how much more does Birdie offer in attack on that edge? A lot. So is that potentially the solution? Is it, from a defensive perspective, Seyfarth takes the sting out very similar to what Twal does, and then after, 30, 35, or maybe like he plays the first half, and then he goes into the prop rotation. Birdie comes on.
Yeah. I think pushing Twal into the prop rotation is a non-negotiable. And
No, Twal, but I'm saying Seyfarth.
Full disclosure, yeah, and another great idea, and that's how you can get that fourth prop out of that system.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, when I was running through it, just off the top of my head before, I've been thinking about it, but running through it, I'd forgotten about Bird, to be honest. So Bird's got to fit in there somewhere. But yeah, look, I think you're right. And if we can aim to have at least Terrell play the first half of most games, which I don't think is out of the realms of possibility. You can play 60 minutes.
He does it anyway.
First half does it anyway. So you don't need to replace one of your props. That's a gigantic thing. If you can then get 30 minutes-ish, 25, 30 minutes out of both Twal and Fanua, then you can carry whoever you want into the back half of that first half. So you can bring your speed men on around that sort of moment, and all of a sudden you're not needing a lot of props to actually rotate into the system. So to the point that you're trying to make, with a Seyfarth, say you got Bird playing in second row, say for example, and you got Seyfarth going back to the bench, he can then fall into that prop rotation if you need, or you've got Twal doing the same thing. So when Hunt comes on, when Twal comes off and Pole comes off, then you put Hunt in to replace Pole, and you've still got Terrell out there, and then you've got the likes of Latu or whatever replacing Twal. But then the moment that you need a new prop, you've had Twal on the bench having a rest, ready to go. You've got your Seyfarth there if you've got that type of edge come prop. Yeah, look, I'm going around in circles, and I'm sorry for taken us off on a tangent. I know it's what we do in this show, and this show's been a little bit different. We've spoken about a couple of different thoughts and bits and pieces, but hopefully you folks
Hopefully
who
you're
are listening,
enjoying it.
you've
You haven't
enjoyed the
fallen
ride. Yeah.
asleep.
Look, it's just I think sometimes we get so locked and set in our ways in the way that we view and interpret football, and I know that what works, but to be honest, like you look back to New South Wales a handful of years ago when we actually got Latrell and Turbo on the paddock with the likes of Tedesco and Cleary and Luai and whatnot, and getting them all inside of that side was just sensational. And
Yeah,
as the old adage goes, you pick the best players and find a
spot
spot
for
for
'em.
him. Gibson, wasn't it?
No, I think that was Phil Gould, wasn't it?
Was it?
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I just think that the Tigers are have some real emerging weapons coming through. They're still young, they're still inexperienced, and the squad and the side isn't yet balanced. But there's room there to experiment, and I think it's a fun and exciting time. But I just hope I hope Benji doesn't play it too safe, and I hope that he really puts his coach's hat on and tries to figure out a way to get these guys in the side, particularly Latu, who at the moment is
he's too good.
waiting
He's too good for
drop.
New South Wales Cup.
He is, mate. He is.
And that's exactly what Benji said in the press conference.
Yeah.
He said he's just too good for New South Wales Cup. We need to find a spot for him.
Mhm.
So, Benji, take our idea into play. Do it, mate.
Mate,
We are getting very long on the tooth. We haven't even gone through my segment, and we haven't even gone through the wrap up yet. So,
well, we are about to jump into your segment, but before we do, it behooves us to mention the giveaway once more. So our Para to Para giveaway, Para Game to Para Game, Easter Monday, our 2025 Black Edition jersey giveaway is going to be drawn in coming up on a few weeks' time, so not too far away at all, which is interesting. So just a reminder to enter, all you have to do is like, share, and tag a mate in any of the stuff that we post, any of the sharing of our shows or whatnot, or any comments that we make. We've been tallying those up, and we've got 1,000 to get through. So, as we've said a few times, just for the 100th show, just a little thank you to everybody for all the support over the last few years of doing it, and we love what we do. So get your entries in, rack them up. Even if you've put a bunch in before, get a few on top, and fingers crossed for each and every one of you that you snag that jersey. So all the best of luck. But mate, we might. I don't have any more to say on that game, to be honest. Like, I do have a lot more to say, but we
don't have another hour.
Our wonderful listeners want to save their eardrums to some degree, and I'm running out of battery, to be honest. So personally and computer wise. So mate, did you want to add anything else before we move on? The last penalty was unlucky, and he also ran a beautiful line and set up someone wonderfully as well. So, there was a lot of individual mistakes over on the weekend. We didn't even mention Start Tower's couple of major issues. We mentioned the outside shoulder run, but look, let's move on from the negativity. It's good to see that you can think on your feet, mate, and you're really good at smoothing over and brushing under the rug minor little disruptions in the show. You just you're just shit hot at it. So on that note, mate, look, no one believes that for a second. But without any further ado, it's time for Toby's weekly Pathways Roundup. I do love it, mate. Off you go, Sonny Jim. Charlie Murray playing lock, yeah. In SG ball, I think we're struggling there now. Balmain have lost a couple later in the season and pulled them back a little bit there now. So the West's always had a bit of a issue to climb, but I think SG ball runs the top 6 though, don't they? SG ball finals. I'll have to go back and have another look. All right, mate. Thank you very much for that. Let's jump in and talk about the Broncos game really quick, eh? All right. So West Tigers play the dirty Brisbane Broncos up here in Brisbane on Saturday, 6:35 local time, so 7:30 down in New South Wales before daylight saving ends. The Tigers line up as follows with a couple of injuries obviously missing. Dream Buller is fullback, Taruva and Luke Lealali'i come in. He comes in for his first game on the other wing. We've then got Dewey named, despite a late scratching last week, and Toa in the centres. Lockie Galvin is a 5'8" with Latu Fainu coming in for the suspended Jerome Luai. We've got Terrell May, Fanua Pole and Apasai Coruscant in the front row. Samuela Fainu has been named once again, just aggravating a knock on that knee apparently. So just aggravating the cork that he got. So hopefully another 6 days of repair and hopefully it should be mending itself up a little bit and he should be okay on the weekend, which that's my suspicion too. Seafarth is the other edge. We've got Alex Twal at lock. Our bench looks rather familiar. Talon, Royce, Jack Bird and Sione Fainu. Our 18th man is Heath Mason. Kit Lealali'i, Solomon Atape, Ruben Porter and Tony Suka round out the extended list. Mate, we're quite long, paying $6 with Sportsbet. Broncos $1.14. Broncos, what a horrible club. Just the Roosters of the North, constantly stacked. They've always got talent out the wazoo. They are this year, but you know what happens when Tigers sides come up against them. Well, actually, of note, we haven't had too bad of a record. Anyway, moving on. How do we beat them, mate? Toby, shut up. Like, seriously. Just stop talking. Stop talking. Don't tempt fate with someone like with Reece Walsh, you peanut. Fair dinkum. Mm. I would say, if it's my opinion, that Dewey's playing that side, and he and Leilani will just switch, and he can take the high balls, which I think wouldn't be a bad option. That would be something I'd be considering at least. I'm looking at the edges for me and trying to attack them through the edge. Look, they're obviously strong, but their second row, Gajewski, I've always found that name hard to say, and Brendan Piakura is not what they're used to. Obviously, Ricky being out. Great players. Gajewski has surprised a lot of people this year. He's been playing pretty good footy. But they are new to this side. You've got Shibasaki, who again has been playing good footy, but he's new to that side. So I'm probably looking to see if I can go down the edges and present a few options around that. It's going to be hard. We've got two 19-year-olds in there, as talented as they are in the halves. We're just up against it, mate. Unfortunately, at the moment, we've got a paper-thin side, as we've said. It's one of the toughest road trips in the business. Brisbane are basically at full strength. Their bench doesn't get any smaller with Xavier Willison, Corey Jensen, Jaden Hunt on there. So it's just going to be a tall order. We just have to go and try to play our style of footy. I think we've come up against a few teams that haven't punished our mistakes all that much. Actually, the Warriors took their chances on the weekend. I think Brisbane is a side that can obliterate you and your mistakes. And I think that unless we start playing better footy, and I'm on record as saying quite a few times, I don't think we've played a good game of footy yet. I don't think we've played a good half footy yet. We can beat Brisbane on our day. I've got no doubt about that. I don't know. Correct. And I do doubt that we can do it with this squad, missing a couple of keys, particularly if Dewey and Sam Weller are out. But yeah, I just don't have a lot of confidence. So if I'm aiming to do it, I'm just trying to keep the ball away from Walsh, obviously, and trying to play that and work those edges over time and time again. I think in order to hold them in the middle, you're just going to have to meet fire with fire. I'm surprised that our bench wasn't chosen, I guess, to try to beef up the size a little bit because they've got a big bench. But who have we got? We don't have anybody next off the rank. So that's just where we're at 2025, and it's getting exposed early, that underbelly of ours. Yep. We've got to hold them early. That's got to be the secret, I think. We have every single game just about started slow and come back strong. But the problem with starting slow against Brisbane is you can be 28 points in the hole before you know what's happened and the game's gone. You can't play like that against Brisbane. So we've got to come out of the gates for the first time this year, to be honest, and hold them. If we can hold them, if we can get through the majority of that first half level pegging, take the sting and the original intensity out of the likes of Carrigan and Haas, then maybe we can come home strong. And like you said, we've got the fleet-footed players and the lighter, nimble players to maybe make a few inroads around that side as they start to fatigue. But it's a tall order. We're going to have to see how we play out. What's the score line you got us at, mate? Just having a look, seeing what the weather's doing Saturday. Looks dry Saturday, so might be a bit dewy Saturday night, maybe a little bit slippery, but we'll have to see what happens. I think we're going to hang relatively tough and go all right, and I think it's going to be one of those games where it blows out late and they score 3 tries in the last 10 minutes, 38-16, which is going to be, again, really disappointing. It's going to be a flattening defeat, I think, but I'm just hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm very often very often wrong when I'm positive, so hopefully being a little bit negative, I can be wrong too. Yep, that's true. It is true. I like Madge, but yeah, I hope he loses on the weekend. I don't think he will. Bold prediction. Excuse me. I'm going to say that the halves continue to be a little bit quiet, and I'm going to say that Jareem has a hand in all three of our tries that I'm predicting we score. That's me. Mate, that's the Brisbane game. You got anything else you want to add on that before we wrap up the show? Yeah, it would. It's not a feeling I'm enjoying all that much, and given the nature of the weekend and how hard fought that game was, to walk away with nothing, very empty feeling. And to double down on that with a flogging, as a few people are predicting against Brisbane, I'm hoping we're wrong. But yeah, it wouldn't be very good. We were sitting good in terms of the vibes, as Dennis Denuto would say, for a while there. So hopefully we can see some improvement, get a few people back. Yeah, there was some talk of Naden being available this week, but obviously not quite yet. But fingers crossed, he's going to come into consideration, hopefully from about next week, and we'll start to get one or two back beyond that. So, that road trip against Newcastle's not easy, but we're every chance when we get a few back on board. Skelton, Naden, Luai. Yeah. So all is not lost with a rough game coming up this weekend. But the boys need to make sure they get back to what was working for that couple of weeks, and hopefully we can get a few wins back in that column again and get the season back on track, because the start's been okay. It's a lot of positives, but we don't want to fall too far behind the eight ball. Mm. Yeah, I agree. And it's nothing we've seen from this side so far, and hopefully they've turned a corner, and that's long gone. That's what we're all hoping for, right? Yeah, twice. It sounds reminiscent of a couple of years ago when we were there or thereabouts in those first few games, and we lost a handful of them, and they were so close, and season got away. Anyway, all right, mate, I'm going to... Yeah, that era. Yeah. I'm going to jump into the PSAs now, mate. Anything else you want to add first? All right. We always give a shout out to all West Tigers media. Get on and support them. They deserve your support. All West Tigers media is good media in our eyes. West Tigers podcast, West Tigers Life podcast, and the West Tigers Faithful podcast. Go support them. The Ambush on Facebook, the West Tigers Forum, and westtigersforum.com. All good stuff over there. Got to get on and support all of those platforms. You'll find us on Instagram, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and what am I forgetting? Facebook. Of course. How could I forget poor old Facebook? Don't forget to get your entries in for a 2025 Black Jersey giveaway. Like, share, subscribe, like, share, and tag a friend in any of our stuff, and gets you an entry or three, depending on what you throw in. Thanks again to our sponsor, Best on Ground Digital. Best on Ground Digital. They will not let you down. The digital marketing agency looks after the little guy. Thank you, Best on Ground Digital, for your support. As always, mate, another great show. Disappointing, obviously. We've spoken about that ad nauseum, but looking towards the future, it's a long season, and fingers crossed we can get a few trips back on deck in the coming weeks. And who knows, against Brisbane this weekend, stranger things have happened. Yeah. yeah, be looking at the game with optimism. And look, all we've got to do is look at last weekend's results to have a look at how often upsets are happening. If St George can beat Melbourne, I mean, hello, please. Yeah, that's impressive. I know people have got 0. Yeah. All right, mate. I don't think there's anything else to say other than go the mighty West Tigers.